Hello and welcome back to another episode of AZ Update. I'm your guest host, Anthony Bartolo, joined as always by producer Pierre. Producer Pierre, what's going on, my friend?
Guess who's back? Back again.
It's like a
Guess who's
Charlie Brown
back?
special. Only once
Hello,
in a
friend.
lifetime.
Hey?
It's like a Charlie Brown special. Today's Earth Day, so celebrating Earth Day, I'm here on the show to talk about Earth Day, which is awesome. How you doing?
I'm good. Good to have you back. If it's only for 1 week, kind of stepping in to help out and maybe a little bit of nostalgia.
Hey, you know what? I have fun doing the show. This is, it's a great time. You get to share information with all of you. I get to chat in the chat. Yeah, I've been in the chats in and out during the shows. Your co-hosts have been awesome. Everybody that's been on the show has been doing a phenomenal job. It's great to see this. It's continuing to grow. And we have the Paul Jensen. How's it going? Andrew McCallum. How's it going? Good to see everybody in the chat as usual, chatting away. We're probably going to see the man with the big green hat show up later, and producer Steve. Producer Steve, did I say it correct?
Steve, the audio guy.
Yes, that's it.
That one
always mess. See, I'm going back to my roots there.
Oh my God. What have you been up to?
It's been a great adventure. As you know, I'm working on the student side in terms of academics and understanding, their perception of technology and their, how they're trying to put their ideas up in the cloud and utilize Microsoft services. Stop me if you've heard this one before. The interesting experience that I've been coming across, been visiting a lot of universities and colleges in North America. This has been coming up a lot. Walk into a scenario where I'm talking to professors, and professors like, yeah, we could really use your help. Okay, let me know what's going on. I have this classroom and we're teaching X, and I've got this set up for my students. I was like, oh, okay, what's the setup? Oh, I have this compact ProLiant 3000 that's sitting under a desk. That's my curriculum for the year. And
I haven't seen a compacts in decades.
I maybe I'm over embellishing a little bit in terms of but it's why I use compact, so I'm not throwing out another server name out there. And you have the situation where the server keeps on getting kicked off the network, and it's like, wow, that's weird. What's going on? And then talking to the corresponding IT teams, like, yeah, we've told this professor numerous times that if they're going to deploy a server, they have to make sure it's kept up to date so that the security parameters meet the requirements of the university and college. And since they don't do that, it gets kicked off the network.
Yeah.
And so sitting down and having this conversation with the professors and with the IT is like, what's going on? What is the challenge here? Because with the cloud services that are out there, there are grants that the schools could take advantage of. Why are we not taking advantage of these? What's going on? And we have this situation where IT is very controlling in terms of how the grants are being utilized and how cloud is being utilized. The professors are upset because they think that the control is too tight on what they're trying to put forward. And then you have this situation where, hey, have you ever heard of governance as a strategy?
Really?
Right. And literally it's like, what's that? And you're sitting there and you're talking about the whole enablement of, it's okay, let's create up the subscription specifically for the class load. Let's use agreed upon ARM templates that you can deploy for your courseware. Let's, and you're going through all this. I've never heard any of this.
Of course.
Right. And it's like, but it's on both ends. And then by the end of the week visit, they're planning out, they're architecting how to best collaborate. And it's like, we didn't know we could talk to each other and have this enablement. And it's amazing.
Talk to each other. Like, haven't they have ever heard of like DevOps practices? They're in college for.
But this is the thing, though, right? So we've talked about this before in terms of the importance of communication with the business decision maker, the IT professional, and the developer. It rings true at every instance, and academic is the same thing. And it's interesting because it's that what I'm experiencing firsthand is that professors are fearful of talking to IT pros because they feel that the answer is always going to be no. IT pros are fearful of talking to professors because they think that they're gonna want the moon and go over budget, and then who's responsible for the budget, bringing both parties together and having the communication, it's amazing. And just seeing in their eyes, like, We can do that. Yes, of course you can.
I actually can relate to this because I started my career as the network coordinator for the University of Ottawa. So all of the networks across campus for the campus management, but also for faculties is what I was looking at. And I do remember that there was always friction with faculty. Some were just thought that they were better than me because they were professors, and others just didn't want it because it was beneath them. Um, but you're right. Getting teams within the same organization to actually talk to each other and come up with solution is something that should be done more often.
I'm just excited that the opportunity has now presented itself, and a lot of the universities and colleges that I've spoken to are taking advantage of that, and they're incorporating that into their day-to-day activities. Even so, the use of grants, having the ability to monitor grant usage and set the threshold up to 20% consumption of that grant to provide that alert that they're about to go over. There's a lot more tools that are coming out that are going to be specific for academic, which I'm very excited about. I can't talk about right now, but it's awesome that you have this thinking now coming.
But even the tools that you have now with the monitoring and alerting and policies and cost management, Sonia talks about it all the time about getting the alerts on your budgets and stuff. Like the info is there, the knowledge is there. It's just a matter of applying, go in and get it and applying it.
How about you? What have you been up to?
I have been preparing, drum roll, for my first in-person event in nearly 2 years. I'm building a session, and I'm going to be presenting at the PowerShell Summit in Bellevue, Washington. So North America, just other end of the country. And I'm going to be doing one session on triggers. So are you triggered? Is there anything I can do to trigger you? But also, we're going to run a couple of roundtables to review some of the learn modules and documentation around PowerShell and see what the community and the experts think are gaps, and then we can address those. So as you know, I'm a big fan of getting the community involved and telling us what they think we should do, and then see if that is actually possible.
Have you had a chance to look at the agenda of the sessions and see if there's anything of interest that you'll be attending as well?
There's a bunch of them that I'm very interested. There's one so my session is finished, but now I'm kind of building an alternate session that's using about the same topics but presented different ways, because I saw on the agenda 2 days before mine is a session that the abstract is almost exactly the same as mine. So I don't want to make this so I'll go talk to the presenter, and I'll go sit in this session, and then I'll adjust mine. I'll have 2 days to adjust mine to do that. But what can you do?
Have you been taking advantage too of the Microsoft Learn having the sandboxes? I've seen a lot of presenters now using that as their demo stage. So when they're doing the delivery of a demo, they're using the ones coming directly from the sandbox to learn.
In some cases, I have. In this one, I have not, because some of the stuff I'm setting up, I have to set up a fair bit in advance. For example, like getting metrics from a VM that's running. I can't just set that up and then an hour later, because I won't have enough metrics for me to actually query and create my alert. So in this case, I can't. But sandboxes are a great thing, and actually Andrew kind of agrees here. In some exam, they're starting to include them. And it was included in the past, but it wasn't really a sandbox. It was more of a I don't know exactly how they set those up, but it wasn't always. I remember 2 exams that I did where the sandbox locked up in between, and I couldn't finish the exam, so they basically had me reschedule it.
That's interesting, and you and I, coming from the days of the Rockstar case, lugging that big 20 laptops.
I think I still have one of the cases in my garage.
Did you keep the? When
not the big ones. Not the big ones. No, the size of chest freezers. I'm talking about the big Pelican cases.
Yep.
with all the foams. I think I still
Yep.
have one of those.
Oh no, those are great. I actually have one. I put tools in it. It sits in the back of my truck. No, coming from the days of carting those big Rockstar cases across Canada, and others across the globe were doing the same thing. We've come such a long way in terms of the enablement of doing the learning online now in these sandbox environments. And as Andrew mentions, it's a great way to learn and to do hands-on learning with that. It's part of the reason why on this show, and I'm glad you're still doing it, the Microsoft Learn module of the week, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Opportunities to learn, right?
And we always try to make it relevant to whatever news was that week. And speaking of the news, why don't you get us started with the first item?
So coming from the academic audience, I thought this was important. This is important for everybody. Certification. Certification is something where it allows you to prove to yourself, hey, I've understood everything that was shared with me. I've gone through the certification process, and so I'm proving to myself that I know the material that's being shared out. This was exciting news that came out recently. Students now have access to free certification on fundamental certificates. So, and this is important because there is a lot of university and colleges in their comp sci curriculum that have this as part of their curriculum. There's a requirement to pass these exams. Obviously, not just from us, because the cloud is more than just us, but from the Microsoft perspective, us offering this is up for free, and this includes the material on Microsoft Learn that you can apply to skill up on. I was going to say skilling because I know you love the word skilling.
I hate that word.
So I say it's
that word.
Skill up on is great, but now there is no costs for students to achieve the certification, whereas there was a cost before that you would have to pay. The other thing, and this question has come up a lot, do I need a school-based email to gain access to the free certification? You do not. There are other ways for you to gain access to the certification.
Oh, that's one of the ways.
Right. That is one of the ways, but you do still require proof that you are currently enrolled in a university or college to gain access to this. I'm hearing as young as high school students.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Right.
And you mentioned comp sci. I looked at that list, and I've got the list up on the screen right now of the concept or the exams that are included in that. Okay, there's the fundamental exams for like data and AI and security and compliance. But if you look further down, like Power Platform, Dynamics 365, Microsoft 365, like CRM and ERP. So those apply to like finance students. Those apply to management students. Those apply to basically admin students who for in terms of managing Dynamics 365 CRM or ERP systems. So it's not just comp sci anymore.
Oh, and thank you for calling that out. 100% agreed. It is, and that was the eye opener that I've experienced going to all the universities and colleges. It's not just about the, computer engineering groups, doctors, lawyers, future doctors, future lawyers, business people. They're all taking interest. It's amazing to see how many people are taking interest even in machine learning. For the output of X, and X being finance or medical or whatever that's going to be that's important to them. It's not just taking computer engineering for the sake of being in that vertical anymore. People really want to take advantage of it, incorporate that. This is an opportunity for them to do so in terms of understanding the material that's available and getting certified in it.
Yep. I'm just checking, making sure that I'm not missing any comments. And we are now streaming on LinkedIn as well.
Oh wow, okay. That's new.
Yeah, that's new. It's kind of a trial. See if we're getting some people, and we've got I think 4 attendees right now on LinkedIn.
Hello, LinkedIn.
Hello, LinkedIn. Yep. All right. Next item in our newsreel is the new reporting functionality for device control and Windows Defender firewall out of the Microsoft 365 portal. We all know that you actually need to collect and view the information easily in order to be able to do anything about it. Like, if you don't know that a machine is being hammered at port 3389, so like, how can you do anything about it? But IT pros and operations folks typically will go and manage and scan and review the logs from their perimeter firewall or their application firewall, but they don't always check to see what the firewalls for each individual machine on Windows 10, Windows 11 within their network is doing. So now, with the Microsoft 365 portal, you now have two more reports, more on one on device control and one on Windows Defender firewall, that will report what each machine is doing, which each machine is like fighting against in terms of firewalls. If they are requests to go out, requests to come in, and if somebody has changed something, but you could see that for your entire data center, if you will, or office, in a centralized fashion in the Microsoft 365 portal. So more visibility, meaning easier admin of your environment. So that's really cool. So it's not really like an Azure thing. Well, it is kind of Azure service, but it's more of a Microsoft 365 play here.
I love this service. This service, from what I've seen, is the evolution of what was offered on IoT. So Defender for IoT. It's that availability of understanding, okay, so this device connects to what network internally at my organization, what databases is it accessing through what applications. It provides you those pathways, and it gives you that insight in terms of how an attack could occur on a device and where an attacker could go, and provides you that map of what could occur. Very similar to, like I said, to what was available in Defender for IoT. It's a new way of thinking of how an attack can occur at your organization. I remember the infancy of protecting devices. You're protecting the device itself. You're putting this wall around this device, and then you're protecting the software on the device. And now they're actually protecting the pathways. Why are you laughing?
I mean, it's just funny because we used to build the wall and the moat around the data center.
It's true.
But we never really figured out how to protect about the guy that parachutes in the middle. And once he's in, he's in.
That's where we're at now. And so that's what Defender does, right?
Exactly. All right. So because we are at 18 minutes, let's move on to the next item. You want to take that one?
Sounds good. So next up is the availability of metrics and alerts supported inside of container apps on Azure. This is a big one. A lot of organizations are taking advantage of creation of applications inside of a container, easier to manage, easier to migrate. The challenges that come with that, though, is monitoring of the resources inside of that container. And so having this availability now for alerts and metrics inside of the container itself is crucial for those that are building those applications to understand what resources are being utilized. Is there capacity limits that are being hit amidst the application itself? What ports on the network is being utilized? Is there a bottleneck somewhere in terms of the information going out? This before was available, but wasn't as detailed as what you see now. It's in essence the same capability that you would have on a traditional virtual machine, but inside of a container for that information.
Well, and before you, like you mentioned, you had the information and you could track it and trend it and see what was happening. So if something went wrong, you could go back to the trend and see whether or not But now, because it's kind of part of Azure Monitor, you can now raise alerts on it. So if you see that the processes within your container is starting to go wild, 80% consumption or up, I don't know what your application is built on or configured but you can set appropriate alerts so you find out before the application goes kablooey. So for me, that's a really cool thing, and that's one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of Azure Monitor, and I mean the umbrella brand, because that's log analytics, it's metrics, it's performance. There's a whole bunch of different things that come up with, and it really helps. And it's the linchpin to so many other services. So that really needs to be set up properly.
And, I hear a lot in terms of containerization of apps. Is that actually being used in production? Are people, organizations taking advantage of it? 100%. You're seeing it a lot more, even down to the academic level. A lot of students are using containerized developer environments now, so that they can have the ability to share their code amidst their peers and to co-write applications inside of containers for deployment. It's something where it's becoming the norm.
Yeah, and even 3 weeks ago, a friend of mine who works at a company that will remain nameless, they wanted to set up an secure FTP server in the cloud because they have some machines that are old and the firmware doesn't know anything other than SFTP. And they're like,
Right.
okay, we want to so help me set up like a virtual machine and secure it. I said, why are you doing a virtual machine?
Right.
What do you mean? I said, just set up a container. It runs. When it detects the connection, it runs. It connects the file, jumps it to a blob, and then goes away. So you're not paying for it when it's not
Right.
running. It's like, really? Like, yeah. So it's basically the basis of microservices, like very small task-oriented task-oriented processes that run when they need to and then send the info where that needs to go, and then they take off. So it's a great way of doing that. I'm actually looking at ways to turn PowerShell more into microservices, where instead of writing this big long script with multiple functions in it, write a whole bunch of little scripts that you pass info using queues and Azure Graph to trigger them, and that's basically the part of the session I'm given next week.
Oh, cool.
And basically turn them into microservices, so you call the functions you need at the time you need it.
Let's continue on. Pierre, you're up next.
Okay, so being on the monitoring tangent right now, and as I am a fan of Azure Monitor, we now, the monitoring agent now supports custom and IIS logs. And IIS logs were always kind of supported, and but it was like a different, you had to basically turn them on separately. But I'm more interested in the custom logs, because I've been asked that many times, is how do I, if I have an application that dumps logs into a text file, and many developers and many, I've done this before, where even scripts will write to a log file as I'm going through, so I can track where something went wrong. But these are not standard, like we're not writing to the event log for like the system log for Windows or Linux. So by default, the agent can't see them. But starting now, and it's a preview, but I'm telling you now, I try to stay away from previews normally, but this one is so potentially impactful that I'm saying, go check it out now and start configuring and figuring out, because you do have to tell the agent how to ingest the what's in your text logs, because it's a text, it's flat. So you have to tell it like which field is the date, which field is so on, the info you need, and so on. That support is going to help tremendously where you're looking at custom built apps or IIS or any other type of logging that your environment may be doing.
And that's the key too, right? It's not just the regular text logs, it's also IIS logs as well. So you have that ability to really expand across your system and monitor different facets.
Yeah. That's very cool. I'm planning so many different little tests, and like I read this on Thursdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. I go through the news and I go, look, ooh, this is cool. And then I put it on my list of things to try out, and I got to start blogging about it a bit more.
Yeah, you should. I think that's a great idea.
Little tidbits, and maybe do some TikToks.
No, please. No.
No? Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next section of our show, which is community events. We've already talked about the PowerShell Summit next week. I am not aware of any other community events this week.
Not this week, but there is a big event coming up, and that would be Microsoft Build.
Yes, which I am doing some stuff for, but I haven't been told exactly what it is yet. It's like secrets. It's so secret, they're not even telling me what I'm supposed to be doing.
So we have a huge section for academic going to be at Microsoft Build. It is delivery around Azure fundamentals and Microsoft services fundamentals. And what's cool about it is it's actually going to be delivered by student ambassadors. So student ambassadors are our version of Microsoft MVPs in the academic realm. And so we're empowering them to do the deliveries of a lot of the sessions. And then, of course, supported by us in terms of any questions that come up. So very excited about that.
Okay. Andrew is asking in the chats if I could share the details of the event. It's just about PowerShell.org. You go there and click on the PowerShell Summit link, and you'll get right into it. And I'm not sure if this year, it's in person, but I'm not sure if it's a hybrid, whether or not they have a virtual section of it.
Cool. Shall we jump
one more thing before we jump into that? We still got 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Is speaking of community, Mary Jo Foley is doing an interview with Microsoft's corporate vice president, Mr. Corey Sanders, and she's asking if you have questions for her in terms of how Azure for Enterprise is going, and she wants to know whether or not if you have questions, to email her or to tweet them at her with the hashtag MGFchat, and then she will ask them to Corey. And she's promised to be nice to him, but this is going to be one I'm going to be watching.
Mary Jo Foley's always been nice. It's always awesome to see her interview.
I know, but some of her questions can be tough. So it's going to be cool.
She's a good interviewer for sure.
Absolutely. Do you want to introduce our Learn module of the week? I still need to come up with some like dramatic cutout or music for that. But
music, it's okay. So, in keeping with our theme of enablement of parties through use of architecture, use of compute, use of cloud, we're looking at the AZ305 Design, Identity, Governance, and Monitor Solutions. This ties in nicely with the show because it not only talks about governance, it also talks about monitoring and having that understanding of how it all comes together. And it explicitly shares the need for inclusion of business decision makers and IT professionals and developers in the harmonization and creation of the architecture that your organization is going to build out and support. So if you're having those conversations already in terms of governance, in terms of monitoring, in terms of resource allocating, in terms of role-based access control, this is a great Learn module to go through and understand, just what needs to be planned for. Yes.
It's not a Learn module. This one's actually a learning path. So it's multiple modules.
Yes. So yes, thank you for correcting me. So it's a learning path. It specifically prepares you for exam AZ305, which is a great exam if you're architecting the infrastructure for your organization and just what you need to think about when you're doing so.
Yeah. No, I'm actually, I've put it on my list because every once in a while I like to go back and revisit fundamentals because things change. Things change all the time, and so if you don't revisit some of those things that you think are just like fundamentals, it's kind of in the word, you end up like going forward with ideas that now are no longer relevant. So, and it doesn't take a long time, so kind of good thing to do.
See, and Andrew makes a good point in the chat, right? It doesn't just cover IT Pro. It covers dev, it covers DevOps, it covers cloud. It's a full gamut to take advantage of and to upskill on in terms of doing that planning for your infrastructure for your organization.
Yep, absolutely.
Pierre, this was fun.
It was.
It went by fast. I can't believe the time's already gone.
I know. And we're on time, and normally we talk too much, but we're good.
If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I have been and always shall be at Wired Canuck.
And if you want to get a hold of me for some reason, you can do so on Twitter at Wireless Life. Pierre, thank you again for having me on the show, and we'll see you all next week.
Cheers, everyone.